Okay, so I am recording on Riverside for the first time, so this might be a little bit different. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cozy Girls Club podcast. That is the first time that I'm announcing this podcast with that title. It has been another cozy morning for the longest time, but I decided that I wanted to change it to align with what I want this podcast to be. I wanted to make space for there to be guests and to kind of like change the format a little bit. It's not too much and it's not like over the top change. I wanted it to be a little bit more relaxed, something that like you look forward to listening to. You listen to it while you make your coffee, your breakfast. I wanted it to just kind of feel like you are a part of this Cozy Girls Club. And of course, we're still talking about growth and mindset and building a life that we actually enjoy, whether that's in our businesses or just in our day-to-day life. And so I'm so excited that I get to do this podcast and be a part of y'all's days and weeks. If you're wondering why there was 2 episodes posted last week, it is solely for the purpose of I wanted this week to be able to announce the name change. I'm super excited about it. Today, I have my notes on my phone because I thought that it would just be a little bit easier than trying to hold my whole iPad. We are talking about the difference between slow living and laziness, and I'm calling this series the Cozy Girl Diaries because I want to talk about me and kind of how like I overcame this while still giving you like practical tips. I asked on Threads like what you guys wanted to see since my podcast was about the slow living and cozy vibes, and this was one of them that popped up. Thank you, Threads. Like, I will be a Threads advocate for the rest of my life because not only did it help kickstart my business, but it also is helping me build a community for my podcast, and I really love Threads. So let's just get right into this. So when me and my husband got married, we had a plan that I was going to work and he was going to work and we were going to build some stuff together. So right before we got married, I was living in a different state and I was applying for jobs here and trying to figure out like what to do, what job could I do, all these things. And when I tell you that I literally could not get a job for anything, literally could not get a job for anything. I didn't work. I wasn't in school at the time, like college. In fact, I was like on the way to like not going back to school. So I just like had all these things and I just felt like I was being so lazy. I didn't want people to ask me like what I was doing because I was literally doing nothing. And it just made me feel like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I can't get a job. I'm not going to school. I am not doing anything. Now that I look back at that, even though, yes, I was feeling that way, that's when I first started like wanting to do my nail business. That's when I started wanting to do my photography business. I really wanted to start doing like YouTube. Like me and my husband had a YouTube channel. It's so weird how that time in my life really kickstarted to what I'm doing now. Even though I wasn't in my mind thinking like I'm slow living, I was, because I was able to take my time in the morning, like do the things that I like to do, drink my coffee and go into the day with a plan of like, I'm about to create content today, or I'm gonna do nails today. I'm gonna start a press-on business. I'm gonna start a photography business. It also was a time where I was learning like a marriage. Like I was just entering into a marriage. So it was a time for me to just really spend with my husband and to really get to know him on a deeper level. So with that being said, slow living is the opposite of hustle culture. It's not about grinding until you get somewhere. It's not about trying to get to the top quickly. It's about being intentional about every single move that you make. Laziness is avoiding the responsibilities and things that you have, and it is not doing anything to like change your situation. So in that time of my life, I was not being lazy. I was just in a hard place, and instead of just sitting and not doing anything and hoping and wishing that one day my life would change, I decided to start where I was. I can look back and say, okay, I wasn't being lazy. I was just in a hard place, and every move that I made was intentional to get out of that hard place. That is something that I think I love about slow living, is it's actually enjoying the life that you live, and it's not being so caught up, I guess, in the outside factors, because we do live in a beautiful world and there's so much to do, there's so much to explore, there's so much to experience. And when we're just stuck on this cycle of how do I get higher? How do I get higher? How do I get to the top? It can cause a lot of burnout. So grab a blanket. I have my coffee. It was a little further than I'd like. So let's talk about slow living. Okay. So my definition is that it's the opposite of hustle culture. It's not about fast growth, but intentional and sustainable growth. The growth doesn't necessarily mean in business or in work, but just in day-to-day life, to where you wake up happy about the life that you live. So I asked ChatGPT its definition, and this is what it said. Slow living is a lifestyle philosophy that encourages a more intentional, mindful, and unhurried approach to a daily life. It emphasizes quality over quantity, being present in the moment, and prioritizing well-being over hustle and busyness. Slow living often involves simplifying routines, reducing stress, and focusing on meaningful experiences, relationships, and self-care, allowing individuals to create a life that feels fulfilling rather than rushed. And that last part, you can ask literally anybody that knows me. I cannot stand being rushed. I do not like the feeling of rushing around. I don't like that I have to try to remember a lot of things in a fast-paced mindset. I like to take my time. The definition of laziness from ChatGPT is: lazy is defined as being unwilling to work or use energy, showing a lack of effort, motivation, or activity. It often implies avoidance of necessary tasks or responsibilities, even when one has the ability to complete them. However, laziness can sometimes be mistaken for rest, burnout, or need for a different approach to productivity. Even ChatGPT says that it can kind of get mixed in with the things that you would be doing in slow living. And so some people might look at it and be like, oh, that's laziness. Or you might look at it and be like, I'm being lazy, when really it's just rest. So I kind of picked out some reasons why I think that a lot of times we can mistake our slow living or our rest as laziness. And one of the main reasons that I believe that people mistake it for laziness is that our society, in America especially, is obsessed with the hustle culture. It is definitely a problem. Our society's obsession with hustle culture makes us feel like we're not doing enough. I went on Google and I just typed in what country has the lowest work week, their full-time work week. What is their lowest full-time work week? I don't think that I'm going to say this correctly, so I'll spell it, and then if you're watching, I'll put it on the screen. Vanuatu. Okay, I think it's an island. Their average work week is 24.7 hours. So that's half of America's work hours right now. Our average full-time job is a 40-hour work week, and theirs is half. I honestly believe that we should take from islanders anyways, because when I was in Jamaica, the chillness that is there, we needed to be somewhere at a certain time, but the bus that we were taking rolled up a little bit late, and everybody was just chill. Nobody was worried about, oh my gosh, it's 9:01 and I was supposed to be there a minute ago. Nobody was like that. So I just feel like we should take from islanders. But this shows that we see this grinding hustle culture, keep going until you reach the top, which is what is the top? There's always going to be another opportunity. There's always going to be another thing to do. There's always going to be another event to get to. And so you're just constantly going and going and going until there's burnout. The other thing that I put on here was that as much as I love social media, I do feel like we can feel lazy because of it. Not just scrolling, but we see people working, we see people posting, we see people going on trips, and we always feel like we're missing something. I feel like it gives us like the FOMO. And so we're always trying to work to be able to get that lifestyle. So social media can do that, and it does have that comparison factor. So I know that that can happen. So it's just a balance. Truly. It truly is a balance. So now that we've talked about all of that, I want to talk about like the key differences of slow living and laziness. Slow living is intentional choices, mindful actions, and rest with intention, rest with purpose. Laziness is avoidance, it's a lack of motivation, and it's procrastination without intention. Like you have no intention of doing anything. So like I said, at the beginning of my marriage, I felt like I was being lazy, but it was just unfortunate circumstances for what me and my husband had planned. It didn't go according to our plan, but I was unintentionally slow living because I was able to realize this is the life I want to live. I want to be home. I want to work for myself. I want to create content. And I started building from that point. I turned that laziness around from just sitting there avoiding my situation by scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or watching TV all day to I want some type of purpose. How am I going to do this? And creating what I wanted to do within that. Now, this could look different if you're like, I love my job. I don't want to quit my job, but I just want the times that I'm not working to be intentional and slow and not rushing around. It doesn't have to be about business, but it is with the intention of growing. So here's some examples. Okay. I don't want you to beat yourself up though, because we've all been in these laziness moods, including me, and recently, like as in yesterday morning. Okay. So don't beat yourself up. It's okay. So if any of these are you, you'll have a slow living alternative. The first example is a morning routine. Laziness would be hitting your snooze button over and over and over, scrolling in bed for an hour on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. That's what I did yesterday. Skipping breakfast because you didn't plan ahead and now you have to rush out the door. That would be the laziness part. Scrolling in bed for an hour. There's so many other things you can be doing within that hour that is going to bring you joy in the day. It's going to set you up for the day. A slow living alternative would be waking up gently, stretching, getting a nice warm drink like a coffee or a tea, or it doesn't have to be warm. It could be an iced coffee, and then easing into the morning with intention. That would be the laziness versus slow living in the morning. Laziness in work and productivity would be procrastinating your tasks, avoiding responsibilities, or doing the bare minimum without care. One thing about me is that I truly believe in working hard and doing your best. There's a difference between working hard and hustle culture. Working hard means that you are giving it your all. You're not going to settle for bare minimum. You're going to do the best that you can. The slow living alternative to that would be taking mindful breaks, focusing on deep work rather than multitasking, and maintaining a sustainable work pace. And something for that would be actually like time blocking. I like to do this when I'm cleaning my house, or if I'm working on something, I will set a timer on my phone or my watch or whatever, and I will basically be like, okay, I'm going to focus on this for 2 hours. And then once I'm done with that, I'll take a break and then I will do it again for something else. So it just helps you to keep your work going and to stay at like that sustainable pace that this was talking about. For home maintenance, laziness is letting clutter pile up, avoiding laundry until you have nothing clean left, or ignoring basic household tasks. Again, very guilty of all of those things. Okay, all of them. Slow living approach would be tidying up a little each day, enjoying the act of cleaning as a form of care, which I actually really, really do. Cleaning for me is very therapeutic, and creating a cozy, functional space. Slow living is in every aspect of life, okay? Your social life laziness is canceling plans last minute out of avoidance, ignoring texts, or not putting effort into maintaining friendship, where slow living is prioritizing meaningful connections, choosing quality over quantity and socializing, and setting boundaries when needed. Navigating friendships in adulthood and in marriage and in womanhood. Like, there's so many factors to friendships. As you grow, you can only be intentional about your friends at this age. Like in high school, in middle school, you could be friends with everybody. You could know the entire world. But at some point, when you get older, your friendships become more intentional. The people that you hang around are more intentional. The last one I have on here is rest and leisure. This is kind of where people, I think, get these very confused. Slow living and laziness, because laziness would be binge watching TV for hours without purpose, doom scrolling, or avoiding responsibilities entirely. Slow living would be reading a book, going for a walk, engaging in a creative hobby, or being present in restful moments. Guilty of the first one, but I do really enjoy the second one. I love reading. I love going on walks, especially when the weather gets nicer. Just being like, oh, I need to rest today. I need a mental health day. And then sitting down in front of the TV is not actually helping your mental health at all. If you're feeling like you need a mental health day, doing the second option where you're reading a book, going for a walk, engaging in a hobby, you're doing the things that you enjoy more than really just like, I need a day to just sit on the couch and watch TV. Because those are two different types of days that you need. So how do we embrace the slow living without feeling like that lazy bone in our body? And the first thing that I would say is to set your intentions. Know why you're slowing down. Know what the purpose is of you slowing down, because you could be like me and realize years later that that's what you were doing at the beginning, and you wouldn't be so stressed out about the slow living. You would embrace it more. Slowing down doesn't mean getting rid of the things that you like to do. Like if you like a certain show or you like social media like I do, it's not about not doing those things, but it's knowing when the time and place is for it, not letting it be something that distracts you and takes you away from your responsibilities, but it's something that you get to do to enjoy. Another thing that we can do is creating routines that will help us balance that rest and productivity. In the morning, I really create an intentional routine so that way I am stress-free throughout the day. I know that I've had the time to like refuel myself to be able to like pour into other people, to pour into my work, to pour into my home and my husband, and just being a good person all around. But you can also create these routines in your workplace, or you can create these routines with your family, whatever it is. Like you can just create these little routines that help you in that slow living process. So I heard someone once say, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And I thought that was such a funny quote, but it's also so true. Sometimes things just have to be fully reset and it only takes a few minutes. And so if you just take a few minutes out of your day to do something intentional, you can start to walk in this slow living life just by slowly incorporating little things throughout the day. So that is all I have for you today. I want to remind you that slow living is not laziness. It is just being intentional with how you rest and how you work and how you are productive. So let's check in really quickly. Where in your life can you add intentional rest? The timing of that intentional rest doesn't matter as much as just doing it. So I want to know, let me know in the comments. I want to thank the Sunshine Collective.ph. She was the one who asked for this episode, and I would really appreciate if you guys are enjoying the podcast, enjoying these episodes, to go on Threads, go on Instagram, whatever, and let me know what you would like to see here on this podcast, since this podcast is not only for me to just yap and talk about the things that I like, but also for you guys. So let me know what you want to see or hear on the podcast. With all of that being said, do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and rate the podcast on YouTube. It will continue to show you my kind of content and content like mine. If you rate the podcast, it lets other people know that this is a good podcast to listen to. There's also a Ko-fi page linked below where you can buy me a coffee, and all of that goes straight into this podcast and truly helps. And I'm so appreciative to everybody that chooses to support this podcast in that way. Until next week, bye you guys.